Everyone's coming. Everyone's here. All right. We are so happy everyone is joining us. I know a lot of you, maybe your brains are fried if you've been into a lot of these. I'm going to go ahead and math here because last time it was 11 hours left and we've had an hour. So it's 10 hours left of this 24-hour festival here. So we are super excited to have Jenny with us for this particular session on transforming your events and workshops into memorable experiences. So we're going to have a bit of interaction here in Butter Scenes. And Butter Scenes has launched on Product Hunt today. And so you should all like sprint over there after the session because we want you to be present in this session and go ahead and give it an upvote, make some comments about how much you loved it in this session, all those things. And there's a link for you in the chat to Product Hunt. And then we're going to jump right into our session here. So we have all the time for Jenny. And I'm so happy to have you here. She's really experienced in developing dynamic learning experiences that help companies engage their employees and bring their culture to life. I know you all love that, right? So she's developed frameworks for over 25 years. Everyone has all these wonderful years of experience. I was like, I always feel old when I say 20 years, and yeah, you are more. I'm so excited to have you here and learn all the things and all the knowledge bombs you're going to have. So I'm going to go ahead and just pass it right over to you. We're going to put the scenes link in the chat for everyone. And what you're seeing in the Zoom share here is just what you're going to be seeing in your own browser. So let me go ahead and get the link here for everyone to join in this Butter link. If you click that, you should be able to pop right into the session and we can start seeing people pop up there in the top. See, look all those lovely avatars. Pop it up there in the top. All right, over to you, Jenny.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. Wonderful to be here with you all. I see a lot of familiar faces, people I know well, and some new faces. So if we're meeting for the first time, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. If we know each other already, thank you for coming back. I'd love to just kick it off. This is going to be an experience design accelerator for remote teams. So specifically talking about how do we design powerful experiences when we have teams that are remote. I'd love to just start by giving you a minute. It'll be just a quick thing. If there's something that pops top of mind, I'd love to hear a question that you like to use to help groups open up and connect. We might call it an icebreaker. We might call it a connection question. We might call it just any way that you prompt groups to learn more about each other. So I think we all have our kind of go-to questions, but this is a really nice moment just at the beginning of our session to wisdom share, to drop something in the chat that you love, something that we can all learn from about how you help to create connection amongst groups and teams. What is bringing you joy today? I love this. A tiramisu breaker. Yes, a tiramisu breaker, why not? One of my favorite ones that's been, what is your superpower? That's been really deep and beautiful is if the time of day were a metaphor, what moment, what era are you in this season of life, right? So you might say like, I'm at high noon because like everything's just popping and moving. It's super bright and beautiful. Or you're like, I'm in that dark, deep dark before the dawn where you just don't know what the hell is going on. And like, the light is coming, but you can't see it yet. So that's one of my favorite ones I've been using lately that just takes people right to the heart of the matter really, really quickly. So just looking at some of these in the chat, what made you laugh this week? What's the last thing you read? Something you'd like to have happen today? I love that. Something you'd have fun talking about for an hour, the last thing that made you grin, say your name in a dance, what makes your heart sing, team cat versus team dog, right? Those binary ones can be really interesting and like why, right? And makes it really easy for people to answer a memorable gift you received. Beautiful. So hopefully you got something interesting, some inspiration from the chat already. So we're gonna jump, these are all awesome, great puns. Excellent. So we're gonna jump right in here. So we have a power hour. We're going to learn by doing. You're going to experience the primary shift experience design frameworks in action. So I'm going to be modeling them while we go through the content, and then we'll pull back the curtain at the end of the session, talk about how we did what we did. So during this session, we're going to cover what experience design is. We're going to review the 3 pillars of designing dynamic learning experiences. I'm going to give you an introduction to the dramatic arc event template, which is the template I've developed over the past 2 decades of teaching and training tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world. We're going to get a chance to connect with the inspiring folks on this line. And I can also give you access to our dramatic arc model. So as you're on the line, there's 3 basic ways to be here. I'm sure you're all very experienced participants, but I love this. And again, a model that you can take and use with you. I first learned this framework from my friend Chad Littlefield. Some of you may know him. He's from Me and We. He's a wonderful guide and teacher. And so this framework is 3 ways to be here, 3 mindsets, 3 guidelines. One is to be a consumer, which is just passively let the content wash over you. One is to be a critic, which is like, this is not going to work. Like, who cares? I'm just going to do what I keep doing. And the other is to be a contributor, which is basically to come with your glass half full and your glass half empty. So being ready to learn, to receive, but also being ready to contribute and to engage with other people. So if you are willing to be a contributor while we are here, can you give me a physical thumbs up in your screen so I can see if you're on video? Amazing, amazing, amazing. Great. We've got 1 hour to be contributors, and after that, you can be whatever you want. All right. So want to start it off by thinking about experience design, right? What does that mean? What do we mean by experience design? So how would you define experience design? And we'd love to see that on the screen. So I think you should be able to click in and create your own definition on one of these sticky notes that then will populate. And so we'd love to hear from you. How do you define experience design? And if you would think about doing that in 1 sentence. So you're going to start that sentence with experience design is, and you're going to fill in the blank. So 1 sentence or less. And I believe you have to be in the scenes link in order to contribute. Is that true, Jacob and Rachel? Yes, you have to be in the scenes
That's
link in order
correct.
to do that. But please go ahead and write that in. If for some reason you're having problem accessing the scenes link, then you can just drop it in the chat. But thinking about how would you define experience design? Again, there's no right or wrong definition here. We're just trying to see, where's everyone coming from? How do you see this practice? What's your viewpoint? What's your perspective? Again, that contributor mindset. What is it that you are thinking of, that you consider experience design to be? So I'm just going to give you another few seconds there to populate with your ideas. I know a lot of you are thinking, yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm here. Wonderful. If you don't know, we're going to definitely learn a lot together. You maybe just have an impression or an idea, and that's okay too. Again, there's no right or wrong answer here. We're just getting curious to see what the group is. So this is part of a collaborative learning process, and we'll talk more about that in a moment as well. So I'm going to share a couple of the definitions I see here. It's creating memorable and meaningful activities or interactions. It's intentionally designing a moment. I love that. It's a very simple. I love how simple these are. Thoughtful planning, so everyone in the audience can get something valuable. It's an intentional crafting of emotions and interactions over time using a variety of touch points. It's being thoughtful about the way people will experience the event. It's the process of creating the perfect, beautiful experience. Love that. Planning a shared event that utilizes activities, emotions, and connection to generate a new learning. Beautiful. All right, these are great. Putting thought and planning into how we choose to experience things together. It's thoughtful and it's intentional, right? You're hearing these themes over again: thoughtful, intentional, powerful. It's about reflection. It's about learning. It's about meaning, right? It's the way that we conceptualize what do we want to have happen and how are we going to bring that to life in the room. So that's essentially what experience design is. It's being thoughtful, intentional, and creative about how we bring something to life. Okay, excellent. So from here, you got a chance to think about what your personal definition is. We're going to go into breakouts. You're going to have a chance to talk with a buddy, a partner, a new friend, potential collaborator. It's going to be short, so it's about 4 minutes total. Each person's going to share their definition of experience design and how you came to that perspective. Again, if you're very new, you can just share like what your interest is in experience design, what your impression is, why you're here, what you hope to learn. So just feel free to share anything that's alive for you. After each person is shared, feel free to look for, talk about, notice any themes or commonalities in your definitions as well as any differences. You might ask some follow-up questions as well. The person with the longer hair is going to share first, so you might have to negotiate that. And I just invite you to aim for equal voice and accept non-closure. So that means in your group of 2, you're talking about 50% of the time and you're listening about 50% of the time. And I'm creating your breakouts right now. All right. And so just thinking about what those definitions were, you're going to have, again, 4 minutes total. And then you're going to have a little countdown timer at the end, about 15 seconds to keep, to bring your conversations to a close. All right. Are we good on that? You ready to have a little convo? Meet a new friend? All right. You got 4 minutes. Share a little bit about your impression of what experience design is or what you hope to learn about it. We'll be back here in 4 minutes. See you soon. All right, let's see. Paula, are you up? Oh, she's gone. Okay, great.
You did that like in pro. You didn't. I was like,
Boom, boom, boom,
oh.
boom. And this is like, you talk, you make it happen, and then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Longer hair.
And I loved how you used the structured brainstorm thing for the experience design definitions. It looked beautiful.
Yeah. You mean that that interactive module?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was Cheska. She programmed that.
Okay.
She was like, I usually do it in the chat. And she's like, oh, can we do it in this way? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Great. Please. Yes. Like, make it amazing.
Some people put them back.
I'm
Hello.
back. I'm sorry, I'm back because I was not there. So I don't
Oh,
want
your person wasn't there. Okay, no problem. Do you mind if I put you in with another group?
Of course.
All right, let me move you.
Arigato.
Okay, see you soon. All right, I'm not sure about Lonnie. Lonnie, can you hear me?
Yeah, there was no one there for me, but I'm fine. Just hang. It's all good.
You want to hang here? Okay,
Yeah.
no worries. No worries.
We actually designed many of those interactive modules to take over that role of write in chat, because they like it documents a lot of the stuff later on. So you have it like also as a nice documentation, and the interaction's simple enough for most people to.
Totally.
Yeah, you were moving way too fast for me because I was going to take a screenshot of it for the chat for the so they could see the definitions. I was like, and then you switched. I was like,
sorry, I know. I'm like, the hour, is so tight that I'm just like,
oh, I know. And mine started late, my particular session.
Gotcha. And anyone who does stuff with me will tell you I move really fast. That's just like in general part of my.
Jacob, we're making your video editing difficult here because this is you're gonna have to cut out this part for
our chit chat.
That's right. I think this chit chat is very enlightening. So it's very good.
Also, I was wondering, I mean, I didn't get a chance to see as well because I was looking on the butter piece rather than what the people are seeing. But if there's like a way, I didn't know how well people could see in the gallery what all those definitions were, or if there's a way to like zoom in to view part of it, something like that.
They can, because Jacob is actually they have their own window open, and Jacob's sharing a screen.
And you can also see you're able to control it as well, so you're able to spotlight it like this.
Okay, cool. Okay,
so everyone's probably very confused right now on the breakouts of what's happening, Jacob.
No, they can't see. Can they see the screen in the breakouts when I'm screen sharing?
Yeah, right. Not on screen share, but on the link, because I'm in as a participant and I can see.
That is okay. That's true. Okay, my brain does not think it moves at a.
Well, you've been up for all the hours. I think we can cut you a break, Jacob.
Yeah.
Nobody ever cuts me a break.
And is it, can I do like I could do just like a spotlight, have people come off mute and share. That's
Sure.
an easy thing. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to close them now. All right. All right. Welcome back. We got some folks popping in. Hello, hello, hello. Excellent. They're all returning. Amazing, amazing. Great. I know 4 minutes is a short share, but I'm hoping that you actually got a chance to have hopefully a meaningful dialogue or somewhat of an exchange with the person that you met in that session. And would just love to hear maybe from 1 or 2 people, if anyone would be so brave as to jump off of mute and to share anything that came up in your conversation, any commonalities or differences that you noticed, anything that was interesting or inspiring, anything that would be insightful for us to hear maybe as a group. So is there anyone that'd be willing to jump off mute? And if you are, feel free to just do so and chime in.
Hi, this is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi. I actually thought our conversation was interesting because the person that I was on with is not a facilitator, so this is completely new for her. But she also, her audience, she hopes will be high school or recently graduated from high school students. And I have no experience. I don't want to do, I don't want to do that. My audience is corporations and the employees in corporations. So it's interesting that is such different audiences. And I think about design experiences in terms of my audience first. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think audience is a huge, when I go through an event with people, we usually go through the 5 Ps: people, place, price, purpose. And I have another one that's primary shift, but people think about who your audience is, that's going to make a huge difference in how you craft an experience.
Exactly.
So, and it's great. It's always so interesting, I think, to have very different audiences and compare and contrast, like how does that to the experience that you're creating?
It is. Yep.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing. All right. Anyone else? Maybe one more person that would love to share about what you discovered in your conversation. And again, feel free to just jump in with your voice.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get permission from the person I was in with to share, but I was really, really jazzed to learn that the person that I was with is also a DEI practitioner. And obviously in that field of work, it's really important to get people to be able to drop into an experience that they haven't considered in order to empathize and kind of open their perspective a little bit. So even though I'm new to experience design per se, I know it's a practice that I need to deepen in order to be more effective.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And so interesting, right? The Zoom algorithm somehow I feel like always puts you with the perfect person that you need to talk to, whether that's someone very similar or very different. So it sounds like you were with someone who is very similar to what you were doing. But absolutely, I mean, the DEI work is so important, so powerful, and that psychological safety component and the empathy component is so important. So I think with the experience design lens, you can be even more intentional about how to craft that. Great. Thank you so much. Excellent. Thanks for sharing. Okay, wonderful, guys. So let us continue. You got a chance to share your experience design definitions, and thank you for contributing those. Again, no right, no wrong. They're all in the realm of what experience design is. I'm going to now share our definition, the primary shift definition of what experience design is. So I think about experience design as the empathetic and strategic process of creating transformational experiences built on meaningful connections and collaborative learning. So you'll see some words there that are highlighted that we're going to go a little bit deeper in what that means. So just to say it one more time, this definition has been poured over by many people for a long time. So it is very intentionally crafted. It's the empathetic and strategic process of creating transformational experiences built on meaningful connections and collaborative learning. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means. So this is experience design. So it's two parts. It's the experience and the design. So we're talking about first, just what is the design? The design is the map, right? It's the agenda, it's the curriculum, it's your vision for what you want to have come to life, put on a piece of paper in a very methodical way. So it's strategic, meaning that you are reverse engineering your curriculum, starting from your goals and outcomes. So what do you want to achieve? What do you want to have happen? And then how are you going to do that working backwards? It's also empathetic, especially if we're doing it right. So exactly what you're just saying, Lyndall, about, how do we empathize with our participants? So it's really considering what the experience will feel like from the participant's perspective. So the strategic is kind of coming from the brain, the empathetic is coming from the heart. So we want to really be in that feeling space of thinking about especially when we look at our curriculum or agenda, what is that going to feel like to experience? Where are the low points, the high points? Where is it going to feel too dense, too slow, too fast, right? Where are we going to lose people? So that's a really good thing to consider. And then the experience part of experience design is the journey. So not only do you have the map of where you're going to go, but the journey is how you're going to traverse. You're going to fly in a plane, you're going to drive in a car, you're going to be on a boat, right? So just that metaphor of thinking about how are you going to traverse this journey as a group. And so from our perspective, we think about 3 pillars that really define the kind of journey that we want to take participants on. The first one is transformation. And that for me, for some people, transformation is a woo-woo word. What I really mean by transformation is change or impact. So what is the change that you want to create? What is the from to? And we'll talk about that in a moment, that primary shift that you want to create for your group. How are they going to be different after the event? And in my experience and viewpoint, if you haven't created some fundamental change, we haven't done our jobs. So in the experience, we're trying to create some meaningful difference in people in the way that they look, feel, see, think, do, experience the world after the event itself. Second pillar is connection. This is how we build a culture of belonging, of connection, of rapport, of trust, of psychological safety. When we create psychological safety in groups and teams, and we can do that primarily or largely through connection, then we create the possibility for high performance, for collaboration and teamwork. And the third pillar is collaborative learning. This is really about how we harness the wisdom in the room. So we had an example of that in the beginning. We shared our icebreaker questions. You shared your definitions of experience design, right? So it's not just the facilitator or the convener giving information, being the sage on the stage. It's really trusting that there's wisdom in the room, and how do we harness and harvest that so that participants, team members, and colleagues are learning with and from each other. So those are the 3 pillars of experience design that we use in all of the content that we create. So let's talk a little bit more about experience design specifically for remote teams. And in some ways, the way I think about this is how do you make the most of a virtual gathering? Because remote teams, they're not seeing each other very often in person. Maybe you get that once a year offsite, twice a year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year if you're lucky, right? So if you're only convening on platforms like this, how do you make the most of that experience? So to give context in the bigger picture, right, we're in the middle of a loneliness epidemic. This was true before the pandemic. It's even worse now, unfortunately. And recent studies show that people are missing social connections at work, and 70% of people do not feel a strong connection to their coworkers. I think this is just more potentially exacerbated in a remote context, right? Because we have to really intentionally create those opportunities for connection. On the flip side, another recent study showed that very satisfied employees cited the relationship with their colleagues as their #1 reason. So when you create connection, when you create trust, when you create rapport between colleagues, not only you're going to get that high performance team, but you're going to get really satisfied, really loyal employees who are excited to do the work. It's not just what the work is or what the company is, but it's who they're doing the work with that matters. So this is a big piece of what we call emotional compensation. And at in-person meetings and sessions, connection often happens by serendipity, right? It's like walking into the meeting, walking out of the meeting, that kind of like, let's get coffee or lunch or the water cooler talk, right? But during virtual meetings and sessions, if we don't plan for connection on purpose, we risk that it may not happen at all. So a lot of experience design, again, is being thoughtful, intentional, it's planning, it's creating those structured moments for connection, for trust, for team building as well. So one of the ways you can think about doing this and changing the culture of your meetings and your gatherings. Oh, hold on one second. Can you hear me there? I think it connected to.
Yes.
We can still hear you.
Okay, great. My computer did a funny thing. Okay, good. All right. So one of the ways you can think about shifting the culture of any kind of online gathering you have with your team or your group is minimizing, not eliminating, but minimizing one-way information sharing, right? That's going to be lectures, PowerPoints, reports, announcements, keynotes, briefings, right? That's talking at your audience versus maximizing collaborative relationship building. So examples of that could be your roundtable discussions, brainstorming, problem solving, prototyping, culture building, conflict resolution, right? What are the difficult conversations we're not having, or any kind of team bonding? So you're really thinking about shifting the way you use the time. So you want to get that information to people in another fashion, whether that's like a pre-read, a video, a podcast, an email, something like that, so that the live time, whether that's in person or virtual, is really in this collaborative format. All right, excellent. So I want to tell you about the 3 event models, and then we're going to do a little reflection about how this event model could work for you. So there's 3 event models that I talk about: flatline, chaos, and dramatic arc. The first 2 are default models. The third one is an intentional model. So the flatline model, if you look at this, very much the standard conference model. So you have a beginning, middle, and an end. It is literally a flat line. Nothing much changes from beginning to end. You've got speaker, speaker, panel, speaker, lunch, speaker, wow, fireside chat, and a speaker, right? Maybe there's a workshop in there. But in general, this model, it leaves people bored, disengaged, and overwhelmed. It's information, information, information with no integration, very little connection, people sitting next to each other who are really passionate about the same topic or learning the same thing, and they don't get a chance to connect with each other. They're all facing that stage on the stage model, right? So we've all seen this. I feel like conferences specifically are one of the models that are most ripe for innovation. So let's keep doing that. Yeah, where's the bathroom break? You're right. I need to put a bathroom break in this one. Second model is the chaos model. Again, nobody tries to do chaos model, but this is when things are all over the place. It's confusing. This is simple things sometimes, like there's poor signage, like you don't know where to go or how to do things. There's too many things happening concurrently. Things are starting and ending at different times. Maybe speakers or people who are sharing content are giving contradictory information, or there's no sense of like through line. You don't understand the why of what's happening, or there's no arc in it at all. So the chaos model leaves people confused and frustrated. They're like, why am I here? It's when you feel like there's a lack of intention in the planning. So that's experience design gone wrong. That's chaos model. So now we're going to look at the third model. This is the model that we are proposing, the model that we work with in all of our trainings and programs, and we work with our clients, is the dramatic arc model. So my background is in theater, and so I took the dramatic arc from theater and storytelling and applied it to an events context. This is our proprietary framework that's used by thousands of event leaders and creators around the world. And so you'll see here, this is like a mountain. It looks like a triangle, right? So there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at the bottom, you'll see that line that says transformation, right? So what is the change we're trying to create? And the way that we articulate that transformation is what we call the primary shift, which is the name of the company. And it's a from to statement. So where are you meeting the group at? Where are they starting at? And what's the to? Where are they ending up? What's your goal? What is the thing you want to end with? So a from to might be you want to take the group from confused to clear. You might want to take them from being stuck in toxic drama and gossip to creating authentic, meaningful, healthy relationships, right? What is that shift that you want to create? Then that shift, whatever that to is that you're trying to take people to, that comes to life in an experience that is your pinnacle. So you'll see right at the point there, the pinnacle is literally and figuratively the point of your event or your experience. It's generally not a keynote or a talk, but it's something, it's a visceral experience that people are having where they are actually experiencing the change that you want to create. You'll see on the upslope to that, we have our guidelines like we talked about, consumer, critic, and contributor. That's a part of the way that we create the mindsets that help people get the most out of the experience. We're creating psychological safety, connection, and community on the way up to the pinnacle. And on the downslope, you have integration. This is reflections, this is debriefs, this is takeaways, a way for people to integrate and process what it is that they've learned, how far they've come. And so this is a general high-level version of the dramatic arc. And now I'm going to give you a more detailed version of that. And hopefully, again, if you're newer to this work, it's hopefully not really overwhelming. But actually, before I do that, let me just pause. And whether it's in the chat or, again, anyone who would like to, again, jump off of mute, I love hearing your voices. Anything you're noticing as I've shared this 3 models, flatline, chaos, dramatic arc, anything popping, anything coming alive for you, any insights that you're having in this moment that we might be interested in hearing, talking about, and sharing. So I'd love to hear from maybe 1 or 2 people, any insights or ahas that you're having in this moment as we talk about these 3 models.
I have something.
Yes, give it to me.
First of all, I love that you took this from the theater world. Theater kid here as well, so loving it. Just wondering, normally in theater, there has to be a conflict for this all to unfold. So I was wondering how that plays into your framework.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I think of it more, so if we look at like hero's journey or classic dramatic arc, there is an inciting incident. There is something that happens that all of a sudden takes us on a journey. And so if some of you know an exercise called the story spine, it's what Pixar and Disney uses to create all of their stories. It's, you know, once upon a time there was, and every day XYZ happened until, and then something happens that changes things. I generally don't work much with like a conflict model. I think some people like to incite some friction and some conflict to create that change. It's just similar to kind of a, if some of you have heard of the learning kind of model of you have your learning zones of your comfort zone, your stretch zone, and your panic zone, right? So some people invoke the panic zone, that kind of conflict and tension in order to get people to a state of transformation. I find that gets really messy and complicated. So I don't necessarily think that I think in, you know, in many ways, it's like just doing an icebreaker, just giving people a chance to connect with someone can be a moment of tension, right? Can bring people into that stretch zone. So I think about it more as inviting people into a stretch zone and again, helping to create that. Where are we starting from and where are we going to? We're going on a journey together. There's some place that we want to get to that's not where we are right now. And I think that in a way is enough to create the tension to pull people forward. I hope that answers your question in a roundabout way. Thank you for asking. Anybody else have a question or a reflection as we're going through these models? Transform into action and happily ever after, yes. Anybody else want to share insights you're having? I know some of you are very familiar with these models, but especially for those of you who are newer, it can be useful to kind of reflect on what you see, what you've experienced.
I can share. My name's Tiffany.
Yeah,
But I have a 7-year-old running around behind me, so excuse that.
all good.
I wrote in the chat that I tend to feel really confident about building connections and the collaborative learning piece, but I always get intimidated by transformation. It has to be big, and I get hung up there.
That's a great reflection. And I think we oftentimes, I as well get ambitious about what I want to have happen. One of the things I like to say is, you know, however long or short your program is, you want to make your promise, your primary shift or your goal relevant to that amount of time so that it's realistic and achievable, right? So if a 1-hour workshop, you gotta get real tiny and specific with your promise transformation. Whereas if you have a year-long leadership development program, okay, you can promise a big transformation there because you have a lot of time to help move people through that process. So the thing we don't want to do is overpromise and underdeliver. Would be better to, you know, underpromise and overdeliver. So it's really thinking about how do we make sure that the promise that we're making is achievable in the time and the energy and the focus that we have. And so really breaking that down to bite-sized pieces so that we take people through that process hand in hand and step by step. And making that process, I was thinking about making that process of transformation easeful and gradual. And the way that we do that is taking a big promise and breaking it down into very, very small steps. So I think about it and talk about it as the rungs on a ladder. And so you want those rungs to be equidistant from each other. When you get a big jump in the ladder and you're asking people to go too far, too fast, that's when you hit panic zone and people are like, I can't do this, and they're out, right? So more work for you later. Great. Thank you, Tiffany. Awesome. All right. An example of a pinnacle. Yes, I will try to do that. I'm going to move forward just because I want to get you through this next piece of content and into a breakout, but I will try to give an example of that as well. All right. Excellent. So here's a little bit more detailed version. I have another more detailed version that has about 12 steps. So again, you're not seeing the full template, but for our purposes today, this is a little bit more detailed in a way that I think we can digest. So I'm going to just walk through these really briefly, and then I'm going to ask you to reflect on which aspect of this dramatic arc template would be most useful for you to dive into, especially as you think about your designs and specifically, again, regarding remote teams, potentially if that's relevant to your situation. So first piece, we have arrival and welcoming, right? This is how people are actually those first moments, setting the space, making a first impression. If it's a virtual space, you know, is it a gallery view? Is it a slide? Is there chat? Is there music? Like what is happening in those first few moments? Because the mind is a meaning-making machine, right? It's trying to make sense of this world, what's expected, what's the tone, what's the vibe, what's the feeling. So those first few moments, or if you're in person, are they parking? Are they driving? How are they getting there? What is that first moment, the threshold? Or they walk in the room? Is there music? Is there snacks? Is there name tags? Like, what are those first few moments that set the tone for the experience? Then you have your behaviors and guidelines. These are 3 to 5 rules of engagement that help people create the mindsets to get the most out of the experience. So I think about this like they're all putting on the same rose-colored glasses so that they're viewing the experience the same way. And this is really about how you create a culture in a room. So anytime you have an event or an experience, you have the opportunity to create a micro universe and to create culture, a subculture within that if you are intentional about it. So we did our guidelines stay at the beginning. Then you have an icebreaker. This is how you can turn your audience from being passive observers into active participants. It's also how you create connection and psychological safety. So ideally, you have an icebreaker, some kind of facilitated structured activity that helps people create connection that's also related to the purpose of your event or gathering, and that helps people buy into why should I participate in this experience. Then you have your rungs on the ladder. This is like the main meat of your event. This is a series of exercises, workshops, speakers, any kind of content that builds on each other. You're building gradually to the pinnacle, right? So this is the rungs on the ladder we just talked about. This is all of those aspects that are building to your pinnacle, to the promised transformation. And then eventually, and this is usually you'll see also in the diagram, that pinnacle is not in the middle of your event or experience. It's towards the end. It's like maybe 3/4, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. It's the experience that delivers the promised transformation. What is that to, the from to? What is the goal? What are you trying to achieve? This is where they actually experience it firsthand in person, right? This is like, oh, wow, I'm having the insight right now, and I'm going through an experience that helps me to integrate. So there was questions about what the pinnacles might be. So lots of ways to think about pinnacles. One of the exercises I love doing the most, I call it standing ovations. Let's say you have an intact team, you have a group of 6 people. And in that 6 people, one person is the receiver, they're standing. The other 5 people give that receiver a big round of applause, a standing ovation for about, say, 10 seconds. And you are celebrating who that person is, everything that they've traveled in this life to become who they are right now. Then the receiver's job is to fully receive and take it all in. Then the audience sits down and you do 3 rounds. This is kind of like an experiential 360 feedback. First round, the coaches and the people sitting give the receiver feedback. So it's just words of appreciation of what positive qualities they see in them. So it might be like funny, kind, caring, dedicated, passionate, loyal, loving, caring, anything like that. So just words, qualities that they see in that person. Second round is appreciation. So specific things that they appreciate about that person in moments like, oh, when we had that project last week and we were working overtime and you stayed with me into the office really late until we got it done. I really appreciated your support there. And then the third round is opportunities to grow, invitations to grow. This is what we might think of as constructive feedback. But at this point, the person is so open because you just gave them all this positive feedback. And then the invitation to grow might be, hey, I noticed that, sometimes you tend to overgive and then you get depleted. So I really invite you to have clear boundaries about what is healthy for you, how you can show up for people in a way that's healthy for you as well as supportive for them, right? And so you're delivering that feedback in a way that is a gift also. So that's one of the exercises I love to do with intact teams, that experiential 360 as opposed to like a written set of documents. So I hope that that is helpful in terms of an idea of what a pinnacle could look like. So just an example. After a pinnacle, you have a pinnacle integration. This is the debrief to make sure the pinnacle is felt and retained, to make sure that we're creating that change and transformation. How are you going to help people think about and process what just happened in that pinnacle and how they're going to be different, how they're going to change or make a different action or behavior because of that? And at the very end, you have your closing. This is an intentional farewell to share and send everyone off on a high note, right? So you do not want to end with logistics. You want to end with some kind of experience. Is it a round of applause? Is it, some kind of fun? I like to do like a one-word whip, right? Where you're going around in a circle or on Zoom and sharing one word about your takeaway or how you're feeling in this moment. Those are all some ways you can think about ending. I'm just looking at your chat here. Great. Standing ovations always make me cry. Yes. Most people have never received a standing ovation. It's a very, very powerful experience. And when I do that exercise, I always have to have tissues around for people. Okay, so that was our template. Now I want to say before we go on to the reflection piece, the design principle here is that structure is your co-facilitator, right? So when you create an intentional, thoughtful, strategic structure, it makes whatever you're doing easier to facilitate because it has your genius, your thoughtfulness, your creativity, your empathy baked into the design itself, which also means it's easier for anyone else to facilitate if you're going to hand off that design. So when we look at the dramatic arc, it's a proven structure. I've been teaching this for over a decade. It creates repeatable, scalable results that you can count on for profound impact every time. So you could use it for a 1-hour workshop, a 2-day conference, or a year-long manager training, right? So it's very pliable. It works with whatever your content is or whoever your audience is. So thinking about the elements that we just reviewed, right? I didn't give you all the elements of the dramatic arc, but I gave you some of the highlights. I think some of the most important ones. I would love you to think about now and reflect on which one of these elements is in your stretch zone. So which one, we talked about that comfort, stretch, learning zone, and panic zone, sorry. So when I say stretch zone, I'm like, which is the one that maybe you could put some more time or effort in? What's something that is maybe a little edgy for you, a little bit where you have maybe less experience, but you would like to get more comfortable, more familiar, more confident? So which of these elements might be in your stretch zone that could create even more impact in your event design? And again, specifically, if you're working with remote teams, thinking about which one of these elements might be even more impactful for a remote team. So I'm going to go back to these elements for a moment. And I'm going to let you reflect on it. And as I do that, I'm going to recreate your breakout rooms because we're going to head into a breakout room here in just a moment with hopefully a new friend. And you're going to get a chance to share a little bit about this one that you came up with. All right, we're doing well on time, everybody. All right. So looking at all these elements, so I'd love you to just think in your mind, which is the one that would be most impactful for you? Arrival and welcoming, guidelines and behaviors, your icebreaker, your rungs on the ladder, your pinnacle integration, or your closing. Hopefully there's something there that just pops out for you. It's like, yeah, that's something I'd really like to focus on. I'd like to get better at. I think it would really make a difference for the groups that I lead and the events that I create. So hopefully something is sticking out for you. We're going to head into breakouts now, and we're going to be in groups of 2. You have 2 minutes each, about 5 minutes total. So I'd like you to share in about 2 minutes one element of the dramatic arc that's in your stretch zone and why. How would integrating this element support your experience design, especially for remote teams? The person with the darker top is going to share first. So I'm going to give you the first minute to just drop in, say hi, and we'll send an announcement when to switch. Again, aiming for equal voice and non-closure. So I'm going to open your rooms now. Let me just make sure I've got that set up. I do. And we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. All right.
The reflections next, right?
Yes.
Okay. We're at about 10 minutes left, so we can
That sounds good. Hi,
Nobody
Petra.
came to my breakout room. It was really lonely.
Oh my goodness. Let me put you in another one. All right, let me see. It looks like there's another person that might also be solo. So let me put you in with her. And
Okay.
then let's see how it goes.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back.
Hi there. Nobody came to my room.
Oh, Tiffany, let me see. Hold on one sec. I was just putting people into your room. Is there a way for you to go back to your room? Oh, she went back. Okay. Barbara, let's move Barbara. Oh, Timothy. This is tough, man. People move around. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so we'll come back. I'll do we'll do that reflection, and then I do the kind of reverse engineering. I think we should be fine. I think we'll be close to time, but we should end on time. And you guys want to have ideally like
Just
like
5 minutes.
a
yeah,
couple
I mean, I
minutes.
don't think we'll need a full 5 minutes. We'll just kind of wrap it and re-mention product hunt and put all your links in the chat, connection links.
Yeah. And then we got the next session coming up right after, so we'll make sure we
Okay.
also shepherd people to the next session.
Gotcha. Cool. I'll try to end like 2 minutes at least before the hour.
That's perfect, Jenny.
Okay. That's my goal. Hi, Lonnie.
Hello, sorry, my connection dropped out, so just
no
logging
worries.
back in.
All right, no worries. We got about a minute more in breakouts, and then people will be coming back in.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to take a nap after this, Jacob? Do you get to go home and sleep?
Yeah, I hope so. I need to.
You need to, yeah.
Barely functioning as it is.
So clearly. I've thought about doing 24-hour, like a 24-hour loop, but then I was like, that also just sounds crazy.
No, there's no reason for it, right? Like your mind is just slowing down to a
Totally. But you also have a truly like international community. And so in some ways it ensures everyone gets something in their time zone that works for them.
Hey Wes, we're just wrapping up the session before.
Okay, awesome.
Hi. Yeah, very well. Very
and
well.
we don't need to shepherd people. That's cool.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Cool. How's the event going so far?
Pretty good. We are we've now been running for a good 12 hours. No, sorry, 15 hours.
Oh my goodness, you must be exhausted.
Yeah, he's running on fumes.
I was like, who's the audience for this? Because even for me, it's late. And I'm like, and I know it's very late for you.
Excellent, excellent. Welcome back, friends. All right, you had another breakout, a chance to share this stretch stone element. I would love to now hear that if you go again into Butter, into the scenes link. You can submit here which element is in your stretch zone that would create even more impact in your event design, especially for remote teams. So would love for you to put your response in there. And then we'll get to hear about what's in your stretch zone and what would make more impact for you. What would you like to create? All right. Excellent. I'm seeing pinnacles, lots of pinnacles. Often pinnacles is the thing. Pinnacle, you know, when I lead our trainings in experience design, this is often the thing that people struggle the most with. I mean, I think partially because there's a lot of pressure on it. Like, oh my God, the pinnacle, like I have to get it right. What is the thing? And I often find the pinnacle is something that already exists in your repertoire. It might just be dialing it up a little bit, making a little bit more experiential. And again, having that primary shift from the beginning, that from to, what is the place you're meeting your group and where you're trying to take them to, the more clear and precise you get with that, the easier it is to develop a pinnacle. Some rungs on the ladder, some integration. Yeah, having really clear debriefs. And at the end, you'll see that there is, you know, there is that debrief integration at the very end, but I would also recommend doing moments of debrief in between each part of your segment, in between each part of the, like after any big piece of content, you want to do integration, not just save it all at the end. So I will make that piece of it. Great. So this is really useful. Good. I'm just looking again, some in the icebreaker. Again, I think we think icebreakers are redundant or not necessary, or that some people have resistance to them, but they can be absolutely powerful catalysts to creating that connection, psychological safety, and deepening your participants' connection to the content. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. I am having a hard time getting to, oh, I see. Great. Excellent. All right. I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting to the next slide after this. Maybe Jacob, you can advance for me. Perfect. All right. So we're at the finale. We're at the ending of our session. So as we are integrating, I want to do a little bit of just reverse engineering. I told you that I would reverse engineer what we did today. And so usually we have music. So if you look at the arrival, usually we have music. I didn't have music today, but we did that prompt, right, of your icebreaker question. We went into guidelines, consumer, critic, and contributor. So what are the mindsets that are going to help you get the most out of the session? We did our icebreaker, which was in this moment, our experience design definitions. How did we come to those definitions? So a chance for you to connect in a more intimate, structured way in our breakouts. Our rungs on the ladder, what was the kind of meat of our content? We talked about experience design for remote teams, the loneliness epidemic. We talked about the 3 event models and the flatline, chaos, and dramatic arc. We did more of a review of the dramatic arc and those elements. Then our pinnacle for this session was the breakout of our stretch zone, right? Like, where is it that you're growing and learning? Because again, a lot of you are coming in with a lot of experience. Some of you are newer, but this is the way that we can all show humility, vulnerability. It's also a way that we're committing to grow and learn in our own experiences. And so this is sharing our own stretch zone. So in my desire to help you, part of my desire in this session is to help you figure out how you can use the dramatic arc in your own content. This is a pinnacle, a way for you to think about and process that for yourself. In the Pinnacle integration, we didn't do so much in the chat, but as you were, it was not in the chat. I don't know what the content format is that we did in Butter, how we would talk about it, but you put that in kind of an open-ended poll, right? So that was a way for you to talk about which element, and we had a chance to think about what those elements were. The cumulative integration, which I did talk about in the main thing, but cumulative integration is helping your participants think about how far they've come, right? From the beginning to the end, what's the change? What's the difference that has happened? And we're doing this meta review right now, which is your cumulative integration, thinking about things from the beginning to the end. And we're about to go into our final reflection and closing, which is going to be our main takeaways. So I'd love for you to drop right now, at the very end, into the chat, what is your main takeaway from today? Can you summarize it in a word or a phrase and drop it in the chat? What is your main takeaway? Is it a thought? Is it a principle? Is it a statistic? Is it part of the dramatic arc? What is the thing that stood out to you from the session today that might elevate or enhance your experience design practice? Anything that you're excited about going on a deeper journey with? Yes, journey, connection, Pinnacle, dramatic arc design, meetings or peer drama. Pinnacle, yes, Pinnacle. Everyone putting on the same rose-colored glasses. Yes, how do you get everyone on the same path? The energy, thank you. Story, transformation, strategy, intention, beautiful. Guidelines create mindsets, absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you all. Keep those coming. I want to thank you for coming today. I know it was a very fast-paced hour. Good luck on your experience design journey. If you want to connect with me, I'm Jenny at The Primary Shift. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can go to theprimaryshift.com and find out more. We have public trainings and experience design and facilitation, and they're on Zoom, so you can access them from anywhere in the world. We have one coming up in February and one coming up in March. So yeah, feel free to stay connected, and thank you so much for having me today. And I really appreciate your time, energy, and attention.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate having you here. We put some of the extra links to connect and explore in the chat over there. And we have more of these, right? 9 more hours of these, right, Jacob? Is that right? And don't forget to head over to Product Hunt. I think Jacob's going to drop that link one more time in the chat for you.
I drop that all the time, yes.
Yes. And go ahead and give that an upvote, and we will see you at the next session.